So this is going to be what essentially was in that Zoom meeting a few weeks ago. I'm going to be going over the first few entries in Diary of Anne Frank. If you already went to the Zoom meeting and feel comfortable, go ahead, skip to the next video. If you want to hear what I have to say, go ahead and stay. Just a heads up, I'm not that technologically advanced where I can put what I'm reading up on the screen. So just bear with me as I read what's on the screen and give my notes. I won't be able to know what I look like, so be kind as I read. All right, so here we go. Diary of a Young Girl. So this is essentially about Anne Frank. She was born in 1929, died 1945. When she was 13 years old, she and her family went into hiding to avoid being sent to concentration camps by the Nazis. During the 2 years she spent living in the attic, she kept a diary which she called Kitty. After the war, Anne's father, the only family member to survive the concentration camps the family were eventually sent to, chose to publish her diary. The selection you're about to read consists of the entries taken from throughout the work. So that means what we're about to read is not the whole diary. It's going to be certain pieces of what she wrote in there. At the beginning of each entry, there is a date. So the one that we are starting on is Wednesday, January 13th, 1943. Dearest Kitty, this morning I was constantly interrupted, and as a result, I haven't been able to finish a single thing I've begun. We have a new pastime, namely filling packages with powdered gravy. The gravy is one of Giles and Company's products. Mr. Kugler hasn't been able to find anybody else to fill the packages. And besides, it's cheaper if we do the job. It's the kind of work they do in prisons. It's incredibly boring and makes us dizzy and giggly. Terrible things are happening outside. At any moment of night or day, poor helpless people are being dragged out of their homes. They're allowed to take only one knapsack and a little cash with them. And even then, they're robbed of these possessions on the way. Families are torn apart. Men, women, and children are separated. Children come home from school to find their parents have disappeared. Women return from shopping to find their houses sealed, their families gone. The Christians in Holland are also living in fear because their sons are being sent to Germany. Everyone is scared. Every night, hundreds of planes pass over Holland on their way to German cities to sow their bombs on German soil. Every hour, hundreds or maybe even thousands of people are being killed in Russia and Africa. No one can keep out the conflict. The entire world is at war. And even though the Allies are doing better, the end is nowhere in sight. So really quick, if you don't know who the Allies are, they were the group that fought against Hitler and the Nazis. All right, so that could be something you can do on your own, but she's essentially saying that everybody is scared they're going to be taken away. The Nazis want to take the Jews away, so the Jews are all scared that they're going to be taken away. But even the Christians are scared because the Christians are scared that they are going to be sent to war in Germany. So essentially, there isn't anybody that's really safe. So I'm going to continue. As for us, we're quite fortunate, luckier than millions of people. It's quiet and safe here, and we're using our money to buy food. We're so selfish that we talk about after the war and look forward to new clothes and shoes when actually we should be saving every penny to help others when the war is over, to salvage whatever we can. That paragraph is very important to tell you what type of person Anne is. While everybody else is thinking to themselves, what can I do for myself, right? I want shoes, I want clothes, but Anne thinks to herself that that's selfish. People have suffered so much. We should be thinking, how can we help them? I'm going to continue. The children in this neighborhood run around in thin shirts and wooden shoes. They have no coats, no socks, no caps, and no one to help them. Gnawing on a carrot to still their hunger pangs, they walk from the cold houses through cold streets to an even colder classroom. Things have gotten so bad in Holland that hordes of children stop passers-by in the streets to beg for a piece of bread. I could spend hours telling you of the suffering the war has brought, but I'd only make myself more miserable. All we can do is sit and wait as calmly as possible for it to end. Jews and Christians alike are waiting. The whole world is waiting, and many of us are waiting for death. Yours, Anne. So then we start our next entry, which is Saturday, January 30th, 1943. Dearest Kitty, I'm seething with rage, yet I can't show it. I'd like to scream, stamp my foot, give mother a good shaking, cry, and I don't know what else. Because of the nasty words, mocking looks, and accusation that she hurls at me day after day, piercing me like arrows from a tightly strung bow, which are nearly impossible to pull from my body. I'd like to scream at Mother, Margot, the Van Dans, Dussel, and Father too. Leave me alone. Let me have at least one night where I don't cry myself to sleep, with my eyes burning and my head pounding. Let me get away, away from everything, away from this world. But I can't do that. I can't let them see my doubts or the wounds they've inflicted on me. I couldn't bear their sympathy or their good-humored derision. It would only make me want to scream even more. So she's talking about all the issues she's having with everybody in the room, all right? And I don't know about you guys, but having issues with your mom seems to be a very normal teenager thing, all right? So she keeps going. Everyone thinks I'm showing off when I talk, ridiculous when I'm silent, insolent when I answer, cunning when I have a good idea, lazy when I'm tired, selfish when I eat one bit more than I should, stupid, cowardly, calculating, etc., etc. All day long, I hear nothing but what an exasperating child I am. And although I laugh it off and pretend not to mind, I do mind. I wish I could ask God to give me another personality, one that doesn't antagonize everyone. But that's impossible. I'm stuck with the character I was born with. And yet, I'm sure I'm not a bad person. I do my best to please everyone, more than they'd ever suspect in a million years. When I'm upstairs, I try to laugh it off because I don't want them to see my troubles. More than once, after a series of absurd reproaches, I've snapped at Mother. I don't care what you say. Why don't you just wash your hands of me? I'm a hopeless case. Of course, she'd tell me not to talk back and virtually ignore me for 2 days. Then, suddenly, all would be forgotten and she'd treat me like everyone else. It's impossible for me to be all smiles one day and then venomous the next. I'd rather choose the golden mean. Golden mean meaning the perfect middle between the two extremes, which isn't so golden. And I keep my thoughts to myself. Perhaps sometime I'll treat the others with the same contempt as they treat me. Oh, if only I could. Yours, Anne. So that January 30th entry is very much like any normal teenager. I'm having issues with my mom. Everyone thinks I'm doing the wrong thing no matter what I do. And even when I fight back, I try to make sure that I care about other people's feelings. That part may not be true for all teenagers, but the idea of having issues with a lot of your family members for no reason of your own is a very common teenager feeling. All right? She's just a little bit different in saying, even if I could treat them with that same kind of anger, I don't think I could. That's when she says, oh, if only I could. She couldn't treat the people that treat her so unkindly that same way. Okay? So I'm going to move on to our next entry, which is from Friday, February 5th, 1943. All right, let's see. Dearest Kitty, though it's been ages since I've written to you about the squabbles, there's still no change. In the beginning, Mr. Dussel took our soon-forgotten clashes very seriously, but now he's grown used to them and can no longer tries to mediate or, to settle the conflicts and differences. No longer tries to do that. Margot and Peter aren't exactly what you'd call young. They're both so quiet and boring. Next to them, I stick out like I'm always being told, Margot and Peter don't act that way. Why don't you follow your sister's example? So here's something I want to remind you guys before moving on. In this little annex, there are 8 people. 8. So we have Anne, Margot, their mother and father. Then we have Mr. Van Daan, Mrs. Van Daan, and then their son is Peter. And then there is Mr. Dussel. All 8 of these people are Jews that are trying to hide from the Nazis, so they're staying together. All right, but it is 8 people that are from different families. So they are often having a lot of little issues with each other that are called squabbles, like they're just arguing all the time. And now she's talking about how Margot and Peter are boring and how she's obviously sticking out next to them. So everyone goes to her as if she's to blame for everything. I'll continue. I confess that I've absolutely no desire to be like Margot. She's too weak-willed and passive to suit me. She lets herself be swayed by others and always backs down under pressure. I want to have more spunk, but I keep ideas like this to myself. They'd only laugh at me if I offered this in my defense. During meals, the air is filled with tension. Fortunately, the outbursts are sometimes held in check by the soup eaters, the people from the office who come up to have a cup of soup for lunch. So again, remember, the annex is in the back of a big office. No one knows that the annex is back there, and everybody knows the office is. So the people who work in the office are having a normal life, coming and going, and then the people in the annex stay there all day. The people in the office still have to have lunch, so they go up to where these people are living, make their lunch, and eat. They are the soup eaters. All right? This afternoon, Mr. Van Daan brought up the fact that Margot eats so little. I suppose you do it to keep your figure, he added in a mocking tone. Mother, who always comes to Margot's defense, said in a loud voice, I can't stand that stupid chatter of yours 1 minute longer. Mrs. Van Daan turned red as a beet. Mr. Van Daan stared straight ahead and said nothing. Still, we often have a good laugh. Not long ago, Mrs. Van Daan was entertaining us with some bit of nonsense or another. She was talking about the past and how well she got along with her father and what a flirt she was. And you know, she continued, my father told me that if a gentleman ever got fresh, I was to say, remember, sir, that I'm a lady, and he'd know what I meant. We split our sides laughing, as if she told us some good joke. Yours, Anne. Next. Monday evening, November 8th, 1943. Dearest Kitty, if you were to read all my letters in one sitting, you'd be struck by the fact that they were written in a variety of moods. It annoys me to be so dependent on the moods here in the annex, but I'm not the only one. We're all subject to them. If I'm engrossed in a book, I have to rearrange my thoughts before I can mingle with other people, because otherwise they might think I was strange. As you can see, I'm currently in the middle of a depression. I couldn't really tell you what set it off, but I think it stems from my cowardice, which confronts me at every turn. This evening, when Bep is from the office, when Bep was still here, the doorbell rang loud, long and loud. I instantly turned white, my stomach turned, and my heart beat wildly, and all because I was afraid. At night, I see myself alone in a dungeon without father and mother, or I'm roaming the streets, or the annex is on fire, or they come in the middle of the night to take us away, and I crawl under my bed in desperation. I see everything as if it were actually taking place, and to think it all might happen soon. What she is afraid of is the Nazis, are going to come get them in the middle of the night. That is why they are hiding. Because if they were found there, which eventually they were, they are taken away to concentration camps. All right, I'm going to go more into that in depth. If you'd like, you could do your own research, but essentially concentration camps was not a place that you wanted to go. All right, so I will continue. All right, Meep. So Meep, again, is somebody from the office. Meep often says that she envies us because we have such peace and quiet here. That may be true, but she's obviously not thinking about our fear. I simply can't imagine the world will ever be normal again for us. I do talk about after the war, but it's as if I were talking about a castle in the air, something that can never come true. I see the 8 of us in the annex as if we were a patch of blue sky surrounded by menacing black clouds. So here she's creating a nice, beautiful metaphor, right? Something beautiful, a comparison. She's saying that we are this blue sky and the Nazis are all this menacing black clouds, okay? The perfectly round spot on which we're standing is still safe, but the clouds are moving in on us, and the ring between us and the approaching danger is being pulled tighter and tighter. We're surrounded by darkness and danger, and in our desperate search for a way out, we keep bumping into each other. We look at the fighting down below and the peace and beauty up above. In the meantime, we've been cut off by the dark mass of clouds so that we can neither go up nor down. It looms before us like an impenetrable wall, trying to crush us, but not yet able to. I can only cry out and implore, oh, ring, ring, open up wide and let us out. Yours, Anne. So that was the end of the first one. So if you were in Zoom meeting 1, that's all I went over, okay? Now, for the next part, that's going to be in my next video, all right? So good luck, guys. Make sure to finish up all your assessments and all your assignments. Message me if you have any problems.